I believe that this address is in your district.
Yes, it is.
We know that you're in the middle of a campaign, and so that's hot and heavy, and the weather's hot and heavy.
Yeah, no.
So we're glad that you could take time out of your schedule to come and be with us. We're excited about the improvements that are coming here, although I must admit it has been
An experience.
a little inconvenient.
Yes.
You know, given the weather and the parking and the disruption. But we feel like we're sort of pioneers. We're staking out a homestead on the frontier. And in a year's time, we'll be rewarded for our patience and our effort. And so with that, we just want to welcome you. Tell us, Tim, are you prepared to introduce? We didn't pull your bio.
We don't have to be that formal.
We just know you as
Yeah, we're all
Kwanza,
family,
and we
that's
love you. And I've known you
appreciate it.
forever.
That's right.
But tell us all about your
Sure thing.
district and where you went to school, whatever you want us to know.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm Kwanza Hall, Atlanta City Councilman for District 2, and I represent the heart of Atlanta, the Central Business District. It includes downtown, midtown, Atlantic Station, Georgia Tech, Georgia State, the Old Fourth Ward where we are, King Historic District, Castleberry Hill, Home Park. So it's really dynamic. It's a really dynamic place. It's where a lot of life and energy is happening. New investment is occurring, not only at the large scale kind of office building, condo type development, but also, small scale retail is happening here. I've been elected since 2002. I started on the school board. I served there for about three years and then ran for city council in 2005. So I've been elected 11 years. I had hair when I started. Many would say this is about time to retire from a position like this or any job. You start moving on to other stuff. But I'm committed to spend at least another 4 years working on revitalizing the heart of the city, but especially the King District. I believe there's some special work that needs to be done. My father's name was Leon Hall. He's deceased now. But he was the youngest member of Dr. King's staff. He served with Reverend Jackson and Andrew Young and Reverend Bevel, everybody who was in the movement at that time from 63 to 68. So, it means a lot to be representing this district. I grew up in Southwest Atlanta with the Mays High School. Didn't plan to be elected on this side of town. I probably knew I might have done politics, but honest to goodness, when I was a freshman in college at MIT, I went to Massachusetts Institute of Technology and I went to do genetics and like plant stuff. So I kind of, appreciate what you're trying to do in this space. I guess it was October of my freshman year, and the political science department was calling me, saying, "Hey, Kwanza, we think you ought to do stuff in this space, not biology or not technology or whatever." And I was like, "No way, I don't think I can do that." But I told my dad that, right? And he said, "Well, son, whatever you do, don't go into politics." So, unfortunately, he passed away a couple of weeks later. So I spent about 10 years from 1989 to 99 or so, 97 or so, not doing anything actual political. I was, trying to do technology, really trying to figure my life out. And things didn't make sense, and when you get off your path, because I was trying not to be a politician. And that's what the image of a person being in elected office had turned into. But really it's public service. And once I began to understand the difference in the two, when you're really serving people, you're really here to help. God endows you to be in this leadership role for a reason, to help people. And there's a lot of power that comes in this position if it's used appropriately. It can help people. So, kind of that light bulb went off, I guess, when I ran for school board. But I was totally not doing any political stuff for those years. And, running for school board and being elected to a school board in any urban city in America, the challenges. I went to Atlanta Public Schools. So it meant a lot to try to make a difference in our school system, but I really couldn't get through the bureaucracy. The bureaucracies that exist in our education system is, really almost criminal, the impact that it has on the lives of so many young people who look like us, black and brown children in particular. There were about 50,000 students in Atlanta Public Schools District at that time, and I say less than 10% were getting that real education, and the rest were being denied what they really deserved. It's as bad as you might say it was during segregation. Actually, during segregation, it might have been better. because you weren't, you knew you didn't have a big school building, you knew you didn't have adequate books, you knew you didn't have resources, but people cared about you and they tried to teach you. You know, we spent $500 million on building schools, but our core competency, educating young people, isn't happening. You know, and I always, you know, it was always troubling to me when I thought about the schools, because I would say, wait a minute. So we got to have new buildings for kids to learn. But I learned the best when I was riding in the car with my parents, or I was sitting outside with my grandmother and they explained some complex thing that I couldn't figure out as a child, like why is this like this? That's when you learn. So you don't even have to be in the building to learn. So what is all this problem with the facilities and the food and the textbooks and the IT and all that, but no one doing the thing that's supposed to really happen? That's educate young people, you know. So I ran for city council and got elected, and you know, that's when I kind of accepted that I was supposed to be in this public life. At least for some reason, God wanted me to do this. And maybe it was because I was trying to go get some contracts. I tried to get a contract. I worked for some folks. I was trying to get a contract, man. I'm telling you, I did all this stuff to help them and nothing happened. And I was like, you know what? You know, the light bulb went off one day. My neighbors came to me and said, Kwanza, why don't you run for school board? And I talked to my wife and my son. They were like, yeah, that'd be good, Daddy. You're always campaigning for people, but you don't really do stuff in the mix. And, you know, the business hadn't happened right. Do you know, light bulb goes off. Whoa. If I run for office and I'm elected, now I might not be able to get the contracts, but I can sure help give them out. So I won't get $1 million or $1 billion, but I can help give other people $1 billion if they do good work, and you know, endow other people. Wow, that's another, you know, it's the other side of the coin. You know, not everybody can be in every position. You got to play your position. You know when you're supposed to play it, and you can't be on the field all the time forever. But so that was what light bulb went off, and that's still hard to do, you know, to help, especially minority and small businesses, women-owned businesses, get the work, the fair share that I think they deserve, or even just get the fair shot sometimes. And in Atlanta, we've got to even double challenge in that it's not just helping minority or women-owned businesses; it's helping new ones, ones that might bring even innovation to the field, get a shot at the work, because it's sometimes kept with just the same circle. You know, and we don't ever expand it. It's almost as if we think that the pie hasn't gotten any larger, or the opportunity to get the pie hasn't gotten any larger, so we got to hold it even tighter now amongst our own. And it was back in the day when the economy was really tight in the 50s and before, we were in our community and we were locked in the Auburn Avenue type neighborhoods, and we had to trade with each other. We all shared. Now we don't know how to share anymore. And you know, we talk about Obama, we talk about our black elected officials being elected, but then there's some who eat off the trough all the time. And I just wonder why we can't get them to really be a part of this bigger equation and let that money recirculate. You know, just for, you know, and I won't stay on this one, but I'll get into what's happening right over here. But for instance, there's $300 million a year in revenue coming out of the concessions program at the airport. That's $3 billion over 10 years. Even if you say 40% of that is going to minority-owned businesses, that's $120 million a year, or $1.2 billion for 10 years. Now that means revenue is coming in. It's not all profit, but let's say 10% is profit a year, maybe a little better than that, but let's say, but it's cash flow though. Cash flow you can use, right? What if you took that cash flow and it just touched places like Auburn Avenue? It touched places like Hamilton Road. It touched places like Martin Luther King Drive. Just touched them. And then went back in. What could it do in turn if it circulated twice? Let alone if it circulated 7 times. Then we have an economy fueled off of this public trough. All legitimate, you know, but it doesn't quite do that. It kind of stops, you know, it comes out, but it kind of stays in one place. And what happens when currency doesn't circulate? It doesn't benefit anybody, even the people who have it. You know, it's got to move. And that's what a lot of other communities, you know, around the world, cultures get. It's got to circulate. And the more people it touches, the bigger the pie gets. So that's one, you know, just an aside, just kind of what I'm discovering being in this position. So where we are now, one of the main projects we're working on in District 2 is the revitalization of the M.L. King Historic District. And there are multiple components to that. Coretta Scott King started the Historic District Development Corporation back in 1980 or so, late 70s, 80s. Just as the holiday was coming online, she and others, my dad and others, they wanted to revitalize the area around Dr. King's birth home. To start with the home and then revitalize that area. And it was a house by house, block by block strategy to revitalize. And it's come online, and if you go east of here on the other side of Boulevard, you can see that about 85 to 90% of the houses have been redone. I live in one that's a new house, and so it's either a new house in the old style or it's an old house that's been renovated. We've got a few old houses that haven't been done, and we've got a few lots that need to be revitalized. So one of the things I want to do is find a few more single family, especially those who know historic, to come in and be a part of completing that district. That's something we owe to our community, we owe to the legacy. Okay, so that's 85% done, but some of them haven't been done because the lots are really narrow, or they're awkward, or the house is about to fall down, but it's the last one in that design in the whole neighborhood. So we don't want to throw it away, we want to keep it because it's a national, international treasure to have a historic district named for an African American, but in particular, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So this is the only King district in the world. Okay, and there's only two places in the world that have 2 Nobel Peace Prizes. One is South Africa with Desmond Tutu and Nelson Mandela, and the other one is Council District 2 with President Jimmy Carter and Martin Luther King's Nobel Peace Prize. And they're walking distance from each other. So there's a lot of great asset here that we don't quite value as a city, as a community, as a state. So I'm taking on that extra responsibility. I didn't expect it to come this way, but it just did. So single family homes, that's been kind of underway. We're on the last leg of that, but if you know people in that space, you're surely welcome to be a part of it. And we need all of you to be a part of it. You know, somebody who wants to live in the neighborhood or wants to rent in the neighborhood, they all play a role in the stability of the community. The other piece is the revitalization of the commercial district. So that's everything on this side of Boulevard. So Edgewood Avenue, DeKalb Avenue, Auburn Avenue, Irwin Street up to Freedom Parkway. So all the streets that run this way, they run parallel. So we want to revitalize all those streets, basically up to Woodruff Park. Okay, and this is kind of the last frontier between downtown, Emmett Park, Virginia Highlands, Midtown. All that's developed, and all this is kind of underway on its own, but this has not been revitalized. Now, how do we do it? Well, we need to honor the history and the legacy. Ideally, African Americans who used to own this street and many of the property, at least Auburn Avenue, many of the properties nearby, should maintain ownership and or should acquire some of the properties that are currently not owned. And this is kind of off the record, but that's a really important component. In the last year, some of the properties on Auburn Avenue have sold to people who were not black, unfortunately. But actually, I think these people ironically care more about the legacy than some of the black people do. Atlanta Daily World, that family, the family there, sold their paper. Sold the building that the paper was in. First black paper. Okay, oldest run the black. They sold that building. $200,000. The other building, a guy named Pig, he owned it. It's across from SCLC. It went into foreclosure. It sold for like $300,000. Okay, 10,000 square foot building. The other's about a 6,000 square foot building. Doesn't seem like a lot, we ride by these buildings, oh, that old building ain't worth nothing. Now, think about Alice Morgan in DC. Think about Soho in New York. Those are mega $1 million, 3,000 square foot buildings, okay? Each one is worth that much, and not counting the business inside of it. But we don't see the value, so we're walking away from it. It's kind of like giving away the 40 acres. Oh, this land ain't worth nothing. I want to get out the country, so I'm going to go to the city. And you just give it away for $5 an acre. Or whatever, $30 an acre. So I think that has kind of been a psychology we've had in the Auburn Avenue corridor. But thankfully, many of our nonprofit institutions and churches, religious institutions, have held on to the property. It's been a plus and a minus. They held on to it. They're land rich, sometimes cash poor, or don't know how to go forward with it. So we have a couple of catalysts. Some are our own catalysts and others are outside forces. So the catalyst that we have is we're trying to revitalize through this effort called Sweet Auburn Works, to make Sweet Auburn District work for us, work for the community, become a vibrant place again. And that's a nonprofit founded kind of by the people who live on this end of the block. All of us are kind of in this mix. And we're working with Central Atlanta Progress, which is the downtown booster agency. They're a partner, and they're giving us technical assistance. But they know in their heart of hearts that black people need to do this for black people. This is y'all thing. Make it happen, man. Jewish people wouldn't not make their thing happen. Italians would not make their thing happen. It's a little Greek town, they're gonna make it Greek. Chinese people make their stuff happen. Look at Chinatown in DC. They took it from old Chinatown, they made it new Chinatown. We need to make this new Auburn Avenue. Really, it's not rocket science, we just need to do it. So I a couple of years ago, I tried to talk to a lot of artists and music industry people. Look, guys, come by a building on Auburn Avenue. I told them, a room full of 50 of them, all of them millionaires. Young guys too. Just buy one building. Trust me. Now, one building was bought before the streetcar happened. He said, if you buy now, it's going to be worth X on the other side. But you really don't have to sell because all it's going to do is keep going up. Trust me. No, they buy cars and they do. I ain't mad at them. Spend it how you want to. But I'm just saying that could have been a great investment. Okay. We still may be able to revisit it, but I'm just saying the time is ticking. So now, what are the catalysts that we have in this corridor? We got this work. We've got the 50th anniversary of the I Have a Dream speech and the March on Washington, and there'll be 5 more years of 50th anniversaries of things, the Voting Rights Act, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, up till 2018. So we've got other things that are really critical in this conversation, and it all still has some tie directly to this corridor. We have I'm working directly with kind of city legal and through our zoning to update the design guidelines. So there have been developers who've tried to do projects here, or people want to do projects, and they feel like, well, it's a historic district and I don't think I can do it because it's too complicated, or the height restrictions or the lot sizes are awkward, so I don't know how to make a deal work. So we're gonna try to clean up some of this language, which really has protected the district so people can just come in and tear down buildings. Now, anybody who's been in Atlanta for a long time or who knows Atlanta knows that some of the most dynamic black culture things occurred in these buildings, whether it be arts and culture, whether it be music, and all our talent, all our movie stars, all of our restaurateurs, our pharmacists, our dentists, our shoemakers, fashion designers, all of them have been down this corridor. Anybody who's anybody would be on the Auburn Avenue in the major cities in America. Chicago had one. Everybody had one of those streets or those neighborhoods where you go to, that's the black community. And this was one of ours, and Hunter Street was the other one. So we've got to bring that back, and we've got a lot of business people who could be a part of it. Real short. So the other 2 catalysts are Georgia State and its investment, and they're buying up property. Okay? It's good. It's bittersweet. Okay, really bittersweet. I like those folks over there, actually, because they have continued to be true to that mission of making it better down here. And they're bringing students. The best thing about Georgia State, there are more African American students in Georgia State than any other college in Georgia. Then the whole AU Center combined, then UGA is, I think, 2nd, and Georgia Southern is 3rd, or vice versa. But Georgia State has more black students than anywhere. So that's the blessing. It's our school, basically. But the plan to revitalize the corridor has to include them because they do have deep pockets. They've negotiated a deal with Wheat Street to make a portion of Wheat Street former gardens into a ball field. So they'll clean up some of that area along 4th Street. Okay, so they'll clean some of that up. So I wish Wheat Street could have maintained the property and not sold it. They kept most of it, but they sold a little strip, and I think that's helping them to kind of get their balance. But in addition to that, they bought Atlanta Life. The historic, not the historic building, but the new building, the office building. Y'all all know. Now, it's bittersweet because we should have had enough foresight to figure out how to negotiate a deal to make that work. With all the millionaires, even black billionaires that we have in our community, in our network, to not be able to even, first off, I don't even know the story on Atlanta Life right now, the company, let alone the building. And those are really two separate things. You know, the company's moving on and moving forward, and then the building. And really, luckily, the Historic District Development Corporation, which I am a big supporter of, does own all the historic properties there, where Alonzo Herndon really worked. So we still have that. We have old ledger books dated back to 1920 when he wrote down everybody by one. So we still have some of those things, but it needs to be restored. And it could potentially be restored to a boutique hotel, you know, that the community still owns through the Historic District Development Corporation. And that would be, it would work for college students, it would work for people coming to visit the corridor, and then we put it back to productive use, and you could tell the story of Alonzo Herndon and Atlanta Light inside of that. I must say, I think Georgia State will do whatever we ask them to continue to put things in the building, but they may not allow, they're not allowing the community use as I guess obviously. And then the other catalyst is the streetcar, okay? One of the worst things to me, and I talked to Mark Ridley Thomas out in, he's this board supervisor in LA, so the head of LA County, is to bring some deals to your community, cut ribbons, but they don't really change the community. Meaning, there's nobody in the community who's on the job, there's nobody getting a contract who's local, there's no real connectivity with people living. So all you do is see a bunch of trucks from Gwinnett or wherever come in, do the work, and everybody just scratching their heads, wonder why, man, I can't even go sweep up, you know? So I feel that way a little bit about the Ponce City, I'm being honest, the Ponce City Market, that's the former City Hall East. That was a deal that I didn't totally negotiate that, it was really negotiated at the administration level in the mayor's office, but there were some minority contractors, but I think down to the grassroots level, we didn't get a lot of that. Just, you know, it's 11 people working out of hundreds. You know, they got 600 people over there doing demos on the windows. It's 11 people working that I know of for sure from Boulevard. But I had to push for them to do that, you know? And I'm like, damn, but we can sit and negotiate the deal. We own the building. How'd that go down? You know, in this era, when we talking all this pro-black stuff, but we ain't doing nothing. The money ain't coming out right. The numbers ain't coming out right. Tell me otherwise, but it doesn't look right. Streetcar, I think this one has a little bit more equity in it in terms of you see people on the street, you see contractors. I know Thrasher is doing some work out there. I was blessed and really felt blessed the other night. I ran into a young man about 2 o'clock in the morning right in front of the gas station. And we were just talking to all the guys putting the actual track in the ground. And they're usually from out of town. They're not from Atlanta because they don't have the technical expertise. So I was talking to all of them white and one woman, and then there was one brother over there. And I couldn't tell him because he looked kind of Spanish or something. And then later on I said, what's up, man, where you from? He said, I'm from here, from right around the corner. I said, for real? I said, you working on this job? I said, man, I gotta take a picture with you, man. This makes me feel so good, man. Finally, one person in this neighborhood actually got a real job. Because if you know how to put the tracks in and put the electrical part in, you can do that for as long as we're building these train systems in Atlanta and in other cities. And I was like, man, I'm so proud of you, man. He said, man, I'm telling you, I almost just had a case, Kwanza. I really had serious issues. And I was just praying, man. And I walked up to the job site and I took my resume and I told these guys I wasn't gonna leave until they gave me a job. And he said he kept going up there until they gave him a job. He only been working a couple of months. And he's like, but I had a serious court case. Some guys tried to put me on shooting somebody, but just a lot of complicated stuff. And he's like, man, I just prayed through it. I didn't get into it with them. They thought I'd turn them in, blah, blah, blah. And man, I got this job. I'm so thankful. I'm looking the other way, going this way. You know, so, you know, it's like how blessings comes. I was like, man, thank God something like it's supposed to happen is actually happening. But we need more of that happening, you know, in a real way in our community when we're supporting these developments. You know, and that's really our responsibility. So there's a new era of that same airport or millionaire game that, you know, Maynard Jackson did and made because famous. I don't know if we've innovated in that space to make it where you get a piece of that pie. You know what I'm saying? This man over here has a securities company. Very few African Americans actually own these kind of companies. But has he got one piece of business with the city? No. You know what I'm saying? Why? I wonder, you know, one little bitty piece, a piece of a piece of a piece. I mean, just to say you got a piece, you know what I mean? Man, I got $10,000, man, I'm working. I mean, even if there's no real money, but you got a client. You know, we can give 25 people client list work just so they can say they got a client. You know, we should be thinking like that. We should be more innovative. They don't have to all get the $1 million deal. you know, and they all have to have given you a big campaign contribution or raise you a lot of money. Help everybody. And we all need to understand we need to support our elected officials. Not everybody gets that. I mean, I don't need but $1 from people. If I just know you with me, that means more than even the people try to raise a lot of money and then all they want is what they want. And still they might not get it because it doesn't always shake out like that. But then when they do get it, then it's like they don't know you no more. So I call them back and it's like, damn, I ain't even really want nothing. I'm just trying to help some kids with some backpacks, man. I mean, how much is it? I shouldn't even have to call you. You should already have a backpack by now. I mean, really? How much does like 500 backpacks cost? Seriously? I mean, and you getting like $3 million a year? I mean, you gave me $1,000 contribution. Man, I helped you, man. Okay, really, $1,000, you get $3 million. Okay, I can't add or multiply. But anyway, so that's kind of the scenario over here, y'all. I think there's a lot of great opportunities. The last piece of this corridor. So what I think we can do, we need to get people on deck to work closely with the property owners who are African American especially, but all of them, to begin to think of how to turn their buildings into something productive. If you just put art in the windows, you let somebody rent it for almost nothing. I mean, if you ain't got rent in 10 years, why not let somebody just go ahead and get it for 6 months for nothing? Who actually will make an investment in the building. Some people are like, no, I gotta get rent. I'm like, dude, you ain't got rent in 20 years. It's been empty for 20 years and you still gotta get rent. Okay, that's why. So, you know, penny wise, pound foolish, we got a lot of that still. We need to share that and work through that in our community. But what I love to see on Auburn Avenue and Edgewood as well, Edgewood could be an international restaurant. I don't know if y'all been down there late at night, but go down there on tonight or tomorrow night at 11 or 12 o'clock. You will be amazed at what's going on down there. You'll be like, you mean to tell me it's like 3,000 white people down here, black and white, but all these white kids come down here and hang out? Wow. Now, the catch is, what if we took Auburn Avenue, all these empty spaces, and a few on Edgewood, and got the best soul food restaurants in America to open up a shop? The best, all the ones we know. Start them in Atlanta. So you get Busy Bee, you get This Is It, you get Gladys and Ron's, we get, who else over there? The Beautiful, there's a couple others. Chanterelles, get all of them to come over, and everybody set up, take a little space and make it your outpost. And now what you do, now you got, it seems like, well, we all can't be next to each other, but you don't make the same kind of greens. You don't make the same oxtails. Some people don't like their oxtails. I like their cornbread.
It's the same reason car dealerships come in the same strip.
That's right. McDonald's like to be Burger King. Right. That's right.
You make it a destination.
It's a destination. So it becomes the place in America, in the world, you can go get black food. It doesn't all have to be greasy. It can be the new high-end nouveau, you know, no pork, no nothing, perfectly sauteed, you know. It could be raw like Tassili over in West End. You know, it could be the range, you know, from the pro-black African to, you know, classic country soul food and everything in between. French, you know, Caribbean, but all of our stuff on deck. So when the world comes here, because they're coming on the streetcar, they're going to be here. Now, are we going to be ready to receive them is the question. We got company coming. And it's really, it's going to be embarrassing to us black people. We got all these millionaires, Bentleys, we're on TV, we're on news, but we can't even make one little street like Little Italy, one little street like Greektown, or, you know, all the other neighborhoods in America. One, we can't do one. Where it's something we're proud of. Not just greasy spoon, it needs to look good. It don't have to be too much money spent, but it needs to be quality. Something you're proud of, just like a new restaurant. You know, we can do that. I mean, that's what we need to do in this corridor. And if y'all have people in that network, let's do it. I think that's the best, that would be we have so much pride about that, because then it's not just food. Then you start saying, well, what are the pictures that are on the walls? What are the stories? Who are the artists that you have on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night who come and do a little set? Well, we got a lot of artists here. We got a lot of authors. We got a lot of entertainer types, comedians. So we start making this whole thing a place that we just put our own thing on. Then what if streetcars going down the street, then on weekends, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we block off the street? and all you can do is ride the streetcar, and the tables come out to the streetcar. So now you can be all in the street, sitting out there with tables, walking, enjoying. Who's gonna come? White people gonna come. They gonna come eat soul food. You know what white people ask me more than anything? Big bankers dressed like him.
Where
can I go get some real soul food? They want it. We not offering it. We got everything people want. We got the talent. We got the creativity. We got the food. We got the music.
We don't have the money.
We got the money. We got the money. We don't act like we got the money. What didn't they just say? The Georgia's black buying power is the biggest in the country. It was in the paper. But how many rich black people? We just came from Washington. How many? What? You see them black people up there? The shoes they have on cost $1,000. The suits cost $5,000.
But if you had a room full of 50 millionaires,
the cars they got, shoot.
If you in a room full of 50 millionaires and they don't want to invest, let me take it off of you and put it on me.
Mm-hmm.
I got a call yesterday morning to be at a press conference with a hip hop star whose name we all know, who was about to register to vote for the first time at age 35. And he wanted some civil rights people to stand with him. I said, well, I don't know him. All I know is his lyrics, and I don't like his lyrics. So I don't know if I can do that. Oh, yeah. But somebody else in the group said, well, look, we're trying to work with a kid who's got some medical problems and he needs a very serious medical procedure. And would you do a fundraiser for this kid? You know what the report came back? They're trying to shake me down. They're trying to shake me down. And really? Really? Somebody trying to shake you down?
Yeah.
So I think, and I'm not saying that to complain, but I'm saying we got some work to do among ourselves.
That's right.
In terms of talking about, I mean, that's why we're here. We got put out Atlanta Life, and I cried the last day I left Atlanta Life because I loved it. It was home. But I said, we looked at places all over town, all the way up to Midtown. But I said, I want to be on Auburn Avenue. I think it's the right thing to do. But on the other hand, when I come in here and it's 95 degrees upstairs,
be mad. So
I'll be praying.
To that point, right to that point, I'm coming direct to it, and as direct as I can. First off, it used to be a time in our community that we took care of each other because we had to. It also used to be a time in our community when everybody had to chip in. There was no way you could not. Right now, people have an excuse not to chip in. They can escape chipping in, and we really shouldn't allow that to be. So let's take this building. I love Miss Perkins, and I really want to help her. I don't want to see her lose this building. I want to see them turn this building into the productive thing it should be. But what we probably need to do is come up with a creative investment structure where she can take on investment capital from people we know. So what if she might need $100,000 to make this building, the air conditioning fixed, whatever needs to be done to spruce up, and put a little bit on their side of the table. They've been holding on for long, put a little cash flow. So what's the value of the building? What would $100,000 equal in terms of pro rata distribution? So now these people own a piece of the building. Are they planning to sell? No. But they take that piece of the rents. And you make it productive. It's a real classic investment deal. But then now, everybody wins. And maybe the group who put the $100,000 says, you know what? Well, what we want, and also as a part of that is my payback is I want 3 units, and that's for 6 years, and that's my return on the $100,000, and I still got my equity. It's all kinds of ways to structure that. Creative people like you and the lawyer can figure it out, but that's what we need to be thinking like that, because there used to be a time when you had to go to Buttermilk or Mr. Cato or somebody down the street at the pool hall to keep your building open. Now we don't have that structure in place. It's not like it used to be. So that's the missing link. So the artists, and on the artists, they're cool. I had a buddy had a party last night, and I just got back at 12:30. It was late on the flight, but he was like, man, you got to come up here. So some of those artists were there. I went anyway because I'm trying to stay on deck with them because they need us. And they don't even know they do in a way, but they know they do. You know what I'm saying? But they have a big persona, so they've got to keep that persona tight, and they really might want to ask you, what is an absentee ballot? but they don't know how to ask you that because they've been in back, you know, or they might want to say, you know, I get confused because I got a lot of money, but the only thing I really know how to do is my friends and try to hit me up to invest in this, and every time I invest in it, it don't really come out right. You know, only thing I do shows and make some money, but I give them some money to go do a barbershop and gave my cousin this and he ain't do nothing with it. I gave him that, and then I just be tired of it. I give them money just so they leave me alone. So they are dealing with their issues. So we have to also, so I think that might be the other side. The messenger might not have explained how it could be mutually beneficial. Right. You know, and how their stock might even, like you think you got a lot of Twitter followers, but once you do this, you're gonna get another 200,000. Well, to them, 200,000 Twitter followers, that equates to my bottom line. But they didn't understand that. So, you know what I'm saying? So I think this is our responsibility, is to connect these last few dots. If we so close to it, it's like this. It's just barely not touching. I mean, barely not touching.
Well, we committed to the neighborhood.
Hold on, let me add this. So these dudes last night, they spent $10,000 on champagne, pouring it on top of somebody else. Didn't drink it. Poured it on top of somebody else. That's what they just did last night. They do it every week in 5, 6, 7 different places. So the money is here. We have it. We just don't know how to access it or how to move it, how to use it. We have it.
Sounds like they don't have the right mentality. They don't understand.
Well, I mean, you know, but how are they any different from our professionals who got the contract at the airport?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who getting it too?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or they might have put in a lot to get it, but they don't know how to multiply.
Well, that's a few at the airport. You only have a few that have come to the airport.
But I mean, when you multiply, it's more than that. I mean, you can talk gravel, dirt. I mean, buildings. I mean, it's a lot more stuff. We have a $560 million a year annual spend, plus the airport construction, plus the water construction.
Minority that has those contracts.
Yeah.
You mentioned when you first started that it would be good if some of that cash flow could touch this neighborhood. Give us an example of how that might happen.
Right to that restaurant idea. If everybody said we're all going to take one space and open one up, real simple. Because if you do it one person, it's hard. But if 10 of us, all who've been in franchises aren't as good in the classic, not fried food type of classic Popeyes, but more, and not that Popeyes is bad, but I'm just saying, I think it should be more of the classic soul food thing, because that's a real rich historic culture thing for us. So back Busy Bee to open up, back, this is it, and get them set up over here, because they got a system, it tastes good, people like it, you can travel with, all these visitors, got 1 million people coming here every year, come right down this street, half of them probably white. Do you tell me those Europeans are not going to stop and try some cornbread? And they'll go to each one. Think about when they go to India, they go to all of the Indian places. When they go to Japan, you try all the. When they go to Africa, they try all the African food. You think they going to try black people food?
Yeah, they gonna try.
They love our music. They love our dance. Yeah. Our style. The food is right there. So those guys take that money and just go invest in one place. Building's damn near free. Or even pay the rent. So what? Take an L. Pay the rent.
There's a hub zone there.
It's a hub zone. We got a $3,500 per person tax credit that you employ over here. Yeah. I mean, it's all kinds of incentives. Every incentive, the federal government is spending $47 million here. Don't you think the SBA wants to get some loans out over here to say it's a success under the black president who used Martin Luther King infrastructure in theory and in strategy and everything to get elected, organizing techniques, and not make this happen? So I think all of it's in everybody's best interest to chip in and make it happen, whatever it takes to do it. We'll be so proud of ourselves on the other side of it. If there's anything I'd like to see President Obama do, is to help us make sure Auburn Avenue happens. There's a lot of Auburn Avenues, but use this one. I think generally yes, because this was the largest transportation grant in the country. But the last two transportation projects in this district destroyed the district. The first one was the expressway. When they built the expressway, it tore down the black neighborhood, as it did in black neighborhoods all around the country. The same thing happened with Freedom Parkway when it was built. It tore down another portion. So all the people who used to shop over here and used to eat over here, I mean, there used to be a lot of restaurants here. They weren't here, so everybody had to go out of business. So if you don't have a support base, what do? Now we also have to think about it. Not everybody's gonna be black coming over here, so you gotta have a different strategy on your customer service, on your delivery, follow through, things like that. But you know, our richest, the first black millionaire was Alonzo Herndon, and he made his millions by cutting white people's hair. So it's not like we don't have a legacy for being great in customer service, 'cause I cannot imagine that man cutting white people's hair in 1920 or 15 and not having his game tight, because he wouldn't have made it. Right? So we can do the same thing. We have a model. We just need to do it in all these different cross sections, you know. So that's my little 2 cents. My 2 cents. I love to have y'all a part of this. I think y'all are a part of it. We need some branding, some marketing, help all these guys get their signs right. You know, make it need to look good, man. Need something we really look like Hong Kong. You know what I'm saying? They come up here, that's black people's pride and joy. Then other black people feel it, say, you know, we want to do it like that too.
What would be the first step?
Well, we have a standing meeting of the guideline revisions. If y'all, everybody, I unfortunately walked out without cards on me. Let me see something. I might have a couple. But if everybody, we can circulate my email, and everybody email me back and say you want to be on the Auburn Avenue revitalization list. We get you on the list, and then you can come out to the meetings and participate in that conversation, and also, you know, think about what kind of business you want to be a part of, or if you know somebody else with a business, you want to connect them up, bring somebody to the table, meet some of the property owners. I mean, you know, that's really, we're going to facilitate sessions where, hey, these are people own the buildings, these are buildings they own. We got studies on what could be, how many square feet, how much you probably got to spend to fix it. And then, you know, here's the kind of use that would make sense.
Is there a study on these two?
We've done some plans. We have the Butler Auburn plan. It's on the city website. We've done a historic 4-4 plan, and we have a retail study plan.
But I mean, down at the building level, has somebody looked at these two buildings? These two buildings.
Yeah, this is a critical one in the story. Because she has all that retail that wraps this thing. I mean, we just have to hold on till next year, like you said. It's just a matter of time, because people are going to be here. But are we going to, you know, it's kind of, we don't want to make it look like we're laying out blankets on the ground and we putting everything we got on the ground. It shouldn't be that kind of experience. It should be, hey, we're glad you come. We made it look so good that everybody wants to walk in. Actually, people from Southwest Atlanta coming over here to eat. People from Marietta coming regardless of the tourists. Forget the tourists. We just making this a place that black people come and enjoy our food. And the white people from Emmett Park and Virginia Highlands heard about the black, you know, you go down and check out all the soul food. Oh, I love black eyed peas. Got a black eyed pea contest in January. You got a fried chicken contest and whatever. Everybody competes, so you got to go taste everybody's food. Everybody eats. This time next year, it'll be running maybe as early as April. Imagine a brand new streetcar riding down the street, and we got 20 or 30 empty spaces.
What's the distance that they?
About 2.6 miles. It goes from here to Centennial Park. So all those people come for those shows, like the America's March show, come to the hotels. They're going to be riding in addition to the people already, the general population who want to see the King District.
Any other questions or comments? Well, we want to thank you so much for coming. And if we want to follow up, you're always accessible.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you
Go
being
home.
that way.
It's real.
Yeah. We noticed that there's a film company making a movie on the block this week. Do you think that there is potential for more
Movies?
entertainment and movie type?
Yeah, I think also that's where these places could be small venue settings for movies in addition, for sitcoms, for commercials. I mean, you know, once you have a nice setting, that's where you make your extra money. You don't have to, you know, you make money in the morning, lunch, and then you have your evening crowd. So during the day, they can have a green screen and they can shoot. So that makes up that difference. Usually restaurants are only open 5 to 12, 3 nights a week. So then all the other nights is dead. That's why they haven't figured out a business model that weaves in. So you have some film shooting, you have some music industry type events, you have some comedy, you build in a speaker series, you have some authors, poetry slam. Everybody can do that because not everybody has the same thing. You got so many different types of black people.
Well, one of the things we saw this week as we celebrated the March on Washington anniversary was all the film and history. I mean, it seems to me on Auburn Avenue, any night of the week, you ought to be able to delve into the history of what makes Atlanta special anytime.
And fall into it and just be like, wow, look at that. I didn't know Atlanta had that going on or this. I mean, and then we got all these international groups. So you got Senegalese, you got Gambians, you got Ghanaians. So you could also bring the whole African crowd and the Caribbean diaspora. It's enough stuff if everybody piles on and does it in one place. And then by making it happen in one place, then it's going to spin back out.
Well, it's fascinating. Thank you
Well, thank
very
y'all.
much.
Thank you for having me.